how important is distribution? You mentioned earlier that in some of those protein studies and mice are eating all day, so they're activating mTOR all day. Now, in some bodybuilding communities, people will talk about eating 6-7 meals, waking up in the middle of the night. Is that an example where you are overactivating mTOR? Should we be trying to get our protein in from less meals so that we have less of these kind of pulses? How do you kind of reconcile all of that?
Well, I think you described two different populations with different goals. The bodybuilders, are trying to maximize their mass in shortest period of time, so I think higher protein intakes and in multiple meals is a good way to go. I think that's logical. Is that a good prescription for long-term health? I'm not sure what the studies on bodybuilders are in terms of that. In terms of the average adult who's trying to maintain their health, I go for 2 to 3 meals a day that have 40 plus grams of protein in it. That's sort of where I start. Meal distribution, when we discovered the mTOR, we discovered that triggering protein synthesis was a key. And so the amount of protein, the amount of leucine in the meal was important. It's important to recognize that literally every study that's ever been done on that's been done with breakfast. So the only meal where we absolutely know mTOR is down is after an overnight fast. So the only meal that it's ever really been shown that distribution is key to is breakfast. So Doug Patton Jones and I ran a study that has been widely overinterpreted where we took 90 grams and the American distribution of 10, 20, 60, and we distributed it at 30, 30, 30. And we showed that there was more net protein synthesis in a 24-hour period. That has led people to say that we need an even distribution through the day. That's not what it proved. That's not really what I think it proved. What I think it proved is that 30 grams at breakfast is a lot better than 10.
Mm-hmm. Got you.
What we also know is that when you trigger mTOR at breakfast, mTOR is still fully triggered 5 hours later. So why do you need 30 grams at lunch?
So the idea there is when you wake up and you've been in this sort of fasted, I guess, catabolic state, that by triggering mTOR, you're helping preserve muscle, you're helping prevent that breakdown that would otherwise occur if you woke up and, say, fasted to midday.
Right. So when you wake up, you are in a catabolic muscle condition. And until you have a meal that has 30 or plus grams of protein, you're going to stay in that catabolic condition.
The other idea that I see out there, Don, is, and you have kind of spoken to this because earlier you spoke about the fact that it's not just skeletal muscle that makes protein. There's proteins made in our liver, for example. So there's a requirement for protein over and above skeletal muscle. You've also established the 30-gram sort of protein dose came from the leucine research. But there's this idea out there that if you eat more than 30 grams of protein, well, anything above that is a waste. Your body cannot use it. Can you help us make sense of this?
So let's think about a 50-year-old who's stable body weight. So they're not gaining or losing weight, and they eat 100 grams of protein per day. What happens to that?
Well, it won't all be incorporated in skeletal muscle.
It all gets wasted. It all gets, right. You have to burn the exact equivalent per day of what you take in. So whether you take in 90 or whether you take in 160, you're still going to burn it all. The issue is you need a constant supply of the essential amino acids to keep that cycle running. Okay. Yeah. So you need a constant supply of the protein to keep it running. The 30 grams, the 30 grams doesn't even max protein synthesis in muscle. There was a paper by Doug Patton Jones at one point where he sort of argued that 30 was the optimum, but there's been a number of other people that have shown that when you look at protein synthesis in muscle, 30, again, depending on the quality of protein, it could be 25, but something around 30 triggers it, but it probably still goes up. It's a flattening curve. You don't get as big a response with additional protein, but it probably doesn't plateau until 50 or 55 or 60 grams. So I personally recommend people have 40 grams of protein at breakfast and get 55 at dinner. And then lunch can be 20 or whatever you want. So I distribute it unevenly with one fairly large meal that's kind of maxing the system and another meal that's just kind of early triggering it. So that's how, people, when you eat a protein, if you eat a meal that's got 30 or 60 grams of protein in it, when it comes in, almost 50% of that protein, those amino acids, are oxidized in the liver and the gut before it ever gets to the blood. It's called first pass elimination. So it's always happening. So the idea that you'll hear some trainers say, well, you can't absorb more than 30. Well, that's nonsense. You'll absorb whatever you eat. It can be 100 grams. You can't utilize it. Well, the efficiency probably goes down as you go higher. So 30 grams might be, a cost benefit. You might get the maximum effect for the fewest calories. So if your issue is obesity, that may be an issue. But if your issue is I want to gain muscle mass, then 55 might be a better target for you. So again, it's the range of activity after a meal is probably 25 to 60. In that range, you probably get a benefit.